welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible and all of the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young, and I'm one of your sporulating, connecting hosts. Joining me as always is our other sporulating and connecting host, Beth Martin. Beth, a pleasure as always. What's the crack?
Sporulating.
Boy, do I regret that word choice. But here we are.
There it is.
There it is. It's happening.
Out there forever.
I'm not going to change it.
Nope.
Yep.
The crack. I was just saying to you right before we press record, my health is tanked right now.
Yeah.
It's really annoying, and I don't know, man. It's like, I don't know what I did to have this downward spiral, but I'm like 2.5, 3 weeks in with no end in sight. In bed most of the day, watching lots of Bravo and Summer House. It's so lame.
Nice.
So I have all this free time, but I don't really have. It's weird. It's like long COVID ate my hormones, and so I don't have energy. I don't want to do anything. I have no desire to have a drive to do anything. I have no appetite. Like, I've got migraines again. I'm nauseous. So we're doing tests. We're running tests and figuring it all out. But all to say, I know I'm not the only one in the world. Or I know there are quite a few of our listeners that have health problems, and when you're in it, you're in it. And I just feel for everybody that has to go through these things, and I already just know the kind of old person I'm gonna be because it's happening, and it's just like, God, I'm that person that all I do is talk about my fucking health problems. So I apologize.
No,
it just fucking
that's
sick
not
of it.
true.
I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I know. I am also sick that it's happening to you, but I don't think it's true that that's all you talk about at all. But it's it's obviously pretty important as well. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I mean, you're fine to talk about it. Don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
It's and as much as it's hard to find comfort sometimes. I think just talking about problems sometimes can help a little bit. Like eases a little bit.
Yeah.
It just
I don't know.
Puts it out of the world.
I feel so fucked up in my body. I took a pregnancy test. Mike's had a vasectomy for 9 years, right? So there's no. He's like, if you're pregnant, you're gonna have some explaining to do, and I'm like, I don't know what else is what else can it be? We have to rule it out. I don't know. And he's. So then we're having the baby conversation again.
Oh God.
I know it's
really?
been fucked up. So
they have though. I know that it's highly unlikely, but I know it does happen sometimes that a vasectomy does kind of fix itself sometimes. Yeah. I'm told. Yeah.
So I have to take another one today, and I know I'm not, but it's just I have to. So I'm getting blood work done tomorrow too, and it's just But yeah, we had to have that conversation where I was like, well, because he was like, do you need anything from the store? And I'm like, yeah, I think I need, I don't think I'm pregnant, but I have to rule this out because something is going on and I don't know what it is.
Sure.
And he's like, okay, and then we're both kind of this possibility is floating in the air, and it's so weird. It's so weird.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
So, but we both
do you think it's
decided that if I was pregnant, that we would be cool, but if I'm not, then we'd both be cool. So
yes, okay, good. Yeah, that's good. That's the best way to be.
So
do you think it's an allergic reaction to not having any sweet Mariah action?
It's entirely possible.
Mariah?
It's entirely possible. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. The holidays.
I love it, yeah.
How are you? Are you pregnant?
I mean, I've been very moody recently. So let's not rule it out.
Am I oversharing? I think I am oversharing.
No.
I don't care.
You're fine. It's fine. People can relate
Sorry,
to this.
everybody.
It's good stuff. Okay, so I went, so kind of the reason that inspired the topic for this episode, I'm not going to talk about it too much, is I went to a very cool sort of mushroom based event at the weekend, just I'm not going to get into more detail as we kind of get through our episode, but it was very cool and kind of very reinvigorating for me. So yeah, very, very lovely. Also, since we last spoke, I saw the 7 remaster.
Oh!
7.
I saw that on Laserdisc the first time.
Oh,
I know.
nice.
That's how old I am.
But like that movie it was the 30th. Sobering because
wow,
it was one of the first 18 movies I wasn't 18, but I managed to like slip in to see, and I was very proud that I could see it.
Mine was Interview with a Vampire.
Oh, okay. That's a good movie.
Have you rewatched it?
Not for years and years, no. I feel like I remember kind of going on quite a bit, but I remember quite enjoying it. And it was great. It's also kind of like really upsetting. And you're like kind of like, wow, this is heavy. And especially as it's coming to the end and you're like, you know what's happening. You're just like, oh, whoa, oh, fuck. It's kind of interesting watching it again and like seeing like what a kind of like a kind of douchebag Brad Pitt's character is, and like how much of a like like a jock, fucking meat-headed jock he kind of is, compared
like wrestling with the dogs and like
so it really interesting watching again. I really did thoroughly enjoy it, I must say, and it was kind of like that or go and see Babygirl by myself, and I'm like,
no, don't be the only dude
I
in the
need to go and see
theater seeing Babygirl.
I know. Sitting with a popcorn bucket in my lap.
No.
Nobody needs to see that.
So I have an actually interesting trivia fact about 7. So Brad Pitt, in his contract for that movie, said that they could not change the ending. That her head had to be in the box.
I've heard this. Yes, because he was like, "This is so great."
And they were like, and of course, once they were trying to figure out the final cut, and they were like, we think it's too much to have her head in the box, and he's like, nope, it's in my contract, you got to keep the head in the box. So, and they were I think they were actually gonna show the head, but they never did.
Yes, apparently there is some footage of that you can find. Yeah,
but then so they've got this Gwyneth Paltrow head in a box, right? And then this other movie gets made called Contagion. Have I told you this already?
Oh, I don't think so. I know what Contagion is. No, I don't think I know
she's
this.
in Contagion, and there's like she like dies within the first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie.
Okay.
And they're doing an autopsy on her dead body, and they're like, "Oh my god, we have her head in the box. Let's just get that head, and we'll be like, she looks dead, and we'll just use." So they use the 7 head for the movie Contagion.
Incredible.
With Gwyneth Paltrow.
I did not know that. That's great.
There you go. So.
Waste not, want not. Okay, as we know about Hollywood, they're always very cost conscious and trying to
keeping things in boxes. But these are the things I love to know about. These are the facts I really want to have in my brain. So you're welcome, everyone.
Perfect.
Yep. Heads in boxes.
I have another big heads in boxes. Everybody, get yourself one.
You never know when you might need it.
It's just true, right? It gets you a lot of sticky situations. Okay, so I have another big ticket. What's the crack that I started this week? I started DMing my D&D campaign on Saturday night. So it was after I kind of had forgotten I scheduled these 2 things. So I had this event that we're going to talk about in today's topic on the Saturday all day long, essentially, and then I was like DMing that night, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna find the energy for this, and especially because like it's my first time doing it, I wanted to be like in a better sort of place, but it was great. I had a really good time.
So DMing
the kind of guys enjoyed it.
You're the dungeon master, is that right?
Dungeon master, yeah, you're
for
running the
those
show
of us who
essentially.
don't know the lingo.
Yes, so
because
certainly how I think of
DMing
role playing
also
games.
means other things now.
This is very true, actually. Thank you. That's good to have that clarity. So like in these games, the way I look at them and the way I think they should be looked at is like collaborative storytelling, and like I kind of have a kind of template that I want the guys to kind of work towards, and then I kind of have to improvise within that template depending on what they throw at me. But great fun. Like, and when I go back to D&D, geez, about 10 years or so ago, and like people were doing like voices and stuff, and I was like mortified by this. I was like so embarrassed, but now I really lean into it and I'm really enjoying it a lot more. And like I kind of love, you know, doing like a comedy bit. So like basically they had decided, the party had decided that they didn't know each other coming into it, and I was like, okay, I can work with that. I've got a way of doing it. So I had them like, I have like an adventure, like a pre-written adventure that I was going to play with them. And one of the hooks to get the them into this adventure arc was that they committed some crime, and the guards were like, look, if you investigate this murder for us, we'll let you off, essentially. Okay. So I had them like wake up deeply hungover in a jail cell, and the guard kind of come up to them and go, boys, what did you fucking do last night? And I keep revealing other kind of horrible things they've done as the time has went on, which they thoroughly enjoyed. But it's been great so far. Great fun. It's a great, like, it's three dudes that I thought I was going to enjoy playing with, and they're like different sorts of energies, but they work quite well together. And so it was a great fun night, and I'm excited for more of it now.
So how often do you play?
We're going to play, I was going to say fortnightly, every 2 weeks.
Fortnite means nothing to me, so...
Yeah, exactly. It's a video game, right?
Yes. Like all the kids at school are wearing these shirts with Fortnite.
Playing Fortnite. Yeah. So like, but we're basically one of our numbers, and we're going to play at his house just to make it easier, has two relatively young kids, you know. So just from that point of view, we're going to play at his place. Like, and it was trying to like figure out, like, as you get, you know, as you know yourself, trying to schedule something in any sort of frequency with adults is a fucking nightmare. So like, they wanted to do every 2 weeks on a Saturday, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to like lock down 2 of my Saturdays every month, essentially. But what we've landed on is that we'll do it every 2 weeks, but we'll do it one time on a Saturday, one time on a Sunday.
Smart.
So I'm happy enough with that.
Sometimes I think about like college and living in the dorms and just how easy it was to be social because you're all stuck in there together.
Yeah.
And like, it was the best.
Yeah.
It was the best.
I just love those kind of environments when you're thrown together with like-minded people. I mean, like our yoga teacher training, like even this event that I was at the weekend, it's a little like-minded people, and it's like, this rocks. Over like the festive period, I watched the documentary, what was the greatest night in pop, whatever it was called, and it was the recording of the, is it Live Aid song? I can't remember.
Live Aid or We Are the World.
We Are the World, yeah. So like it was recording of that, and great documentary, very interesting. And at the end, they were talking about like how Diana Ross was one of the last ones to leave, and like she was like crying because she's like, I just don't want it to be over, because she just loved being in that room with all those people, you know. And I was like, that's really lovely. Like, I'm sure it was like a high stress situation, but it was like probably something that will never happen again. All those sort of like egos and sort of like celebrities just in this one room together trying to put a song together, you know,
and actually like working together instead of like trying to, you know, be the one to win the big award.
Yes.
And I've noticed, and now I'm just like blah blah blahing, but as part of the lead up to the Oscars, they are doing these like roundtables with the people that are nominated in similar categories, and it's so interesting watching these. There was one with like Demi Moore, Angelina Jolie, trying to think who else, Pamela Anderson,
other actresses.
Yeah, and but they were all like, this is so weird that we're all sitting down here together. Like normally, like the way everything is set up, you know, we're supposed to be not in the same team, not, you know, like we're fighting for the same roles, and here we are able to actually sit down and talk about what it's like, and you know, how isolating it is to be an actress or an actor because of that, you know, just the fact that you're always fighting for the same roles.
So true.
And I like that. That was fascinating.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of those actors and actors things, and I always think it's kind of quite a like. I remember like some of them being a bit cringy, but I do like it whenever I saw like Nicholas Hoult talking to Hugh Grant.
I love, like, oh my god, I gotta see it. Those are two, like, Hugh Grant is just...
I like how little of a fucking shit he gives these days. He just doesn't give a fuck.
His humor is so funny. I saw...
Yeah.
He won, I think he was up for some, it's award season, so he was up for some award, and for Heretic, which I haven't seen yet, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm glad my agent finally just realized, my need to just really be a full-blooded killer.
Love it. Yeah, it's good. And he was good, like, he's been, he's a good bad guy in the D&D movie and stuff like that, so I think I'm excited to see, I think his career is in a really kind of interesting spot these days, because I think he got trapped in the sort of, like, romantic lead kind of comedy thing for a long time, So yeah, it's great, and he's great in Heretic, like he really is.
He was a good Oompa Loompa, the grumpy Oompa Loompa.
He was.
So good.
He was.
Anyways.
I love it. Okay. Do you have any occurring for us
I do. One quick thing. I had talked a couple weeks ago about my friend's fashion line that was having like a big sale, and they listened to our episode. Nice. They were grateful. So I just wanted to put a shout out if anyone is interested in amazing fashion, shoes, backpacks, perfumes. You can go to alanio.com. Support artists. Support artists. So just putting a plug out there.
What was that website again?
Alanio.com.
Okay.
And I will put it on all of the socials. So.
Okay. Perfect. Love it. Yes, please check them out. Okay, shall we move on to our topic for this week?
Sure.
All right, so
you said that's such an American accent. Sure.
So I have titled this episode as "Much Room for Mushrooms," right? to no reaction. Which is exactly what I'm looking for. Honestly, that's perfect. That's perfect. It's exactly what I want. So
I'm sorry. I was too busy laughing silently.
Sure, exactly. Perfect. Thanks, Beth. So I just want to talk a little bit about what inspired this episode and why I wanted to talk about it. So a friend of mine invited me to go to an event in south of Ireland. It was fairly central Ireland, I would say, but it was a myco-remediation workshop.
Explain.
So what it was a one-day workshop to provide insight and tools to work with local fungi species and mycelial structures to address issues around water quality in Ireland. Now, I think that only describes a tiny part of it. What it really was about was kind of about mushrooms generally, fungi generally, like the different kind of strains. A little bit of information about growing them for yourself, a little bit of information about growing them in terms of as part of a restorative practice for like wilderness, outdoor places. There was hands-on projects as well as part of this, which was really great, and also like a lot of information about just how foundational kind of mushrooms are to our whole planet, to our whole ecosystem. One of the things that she said that really stuck with me was that 90% of plant life essentially has rely on fungal networks to survive. Like if they didn't have almost this symbiotic sort of relationship with them, most of them would die. It was fascinating. I learned a lot more. Like there's a lot of stuff we'll talk about it more in detail. I just don't want to like hog all the space to begin with, but it was just so fascinating. It has been really inspirational for me in terms of learning more about this subject. I think on the podcast before we've talked about Fantastic Fungi, which is a really interesting documentary. I think everybody should check it out, even if you've just got like a tangential sort of curiosity about the subject. But this has really made me want to explore it a lot more.
So, are you going to become a mushroom hunter?
I'm thinking about it.
So you need a little basket?
Yeah, I do. And a
little napkin to put in your little basket?
And a bonnet. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, this is serious then, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm getting them on it, it's definitely serious. So one of the things that I was going to tell you about, and I'll not bury the lead, is that like the lady that ran it was from America. She was called Maya Ellison. She's based in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
And she had said if any of us are over in Santa Cruz, we should go and visit her. So if I'm over visiting you sometime, we should go and see it.
Yeah.
We should go. And I was like, Beth would want to meet the mushroom lady as well.
I would. Absolutely.
But one of the things that was particularly pertinent about what's happening currently is that my friend who I was with, he's like, look, I don't want to, bring up a sensitive topic, but like, how you're from California, how is the thing that's going on currently affecting you? And she's like, fortunately, I'm in Santa Cruz. It hasn't impacted us, for now, certainly anyway, which I'm relieved at. But what she was saying was that there is certainly in terms of the work that she does, there is, in the aftermath of this, there is opportunity to kind of do more of their work, more of their restorative work.
Interesting.
So like one of the things that we worked on while we were there with them was I haven't written this down, Hugel something other. Essentially it is a way to, basically a construct to build like compost or to like send nutrients properly back into the earth. So one of the things that they're looking to do is work with non-profit charities who are building houses for people who can't afford them, but they have the other problem that after a fire there is a lot of debris left that they can't deal with. So one of the things that they'll do is that they will take wood, they will take other sort of like biological plant-based scraps and kind of build this sort of big sort of pile. It's like there's a whole kind of percentage of this, it's like topsoil, plant and food waste, like 40% is roughly like logs to kind of both aerate it and also to allow them to break down, and you kind of like build a big sort of, she's going to be building these in these areas to help kind of break that all down and kind of just deal with that rather than just dump it all out.
Well, and that I don't even know what recovery in Los Angeles looks like, but it's like, farming, right? Even if you don't know farming, you've got to turn the nutrients to put nutrients in, because nutrients comes out. And
yes,
I think there's probably not a lot of fungi in the yards that are being watered, in LA, right? And
yes,
you have to wonder, the speed at which everything burned and how it's just, I can't even. I just wonder if there was more of a base of natural support, like what that would look like.
I agree. That's a very, very good point. Like in terms of us all, the idea is that we all have these perfect sort of green grass sort of lawns is not good for the planet at all. Like, it's just pretty. Yeah, I agree completely. I think one of the things he's talked about as well was that they had built these kind of wattles, which were like essentially, and I think they had done this. I wasn't too clear. It said to Beth that they had slides and stuff like a PowerPoint presentation that I was hoping to have before this episode started. But there was like information. Basically, they were building these wattles, which were essentially like they were putting substrate in these sort of like almost these kind of natural barriers that were that they were in like planting into the ground, not too deep, with the idea that they would absorb heavy metals. They would, or at least not make them available, because like, well, one of the problems whenever you put a lot of like pollutants into the ground is that plant life will then absorb it, which is exactly what you want to avoid. But oftentimes if you plant the right sort of mushrooms in the right sort of area, it will absorb these things and just not make them available to the plant life and things like that.
So did you know that mushrooms are the largest living thing on Earth?
I did.
Yes. I figured she would have. And
oldest a lot of the times. Well, some of them are thousands of years old. Certain.
Yeah. So, like, the Blue Mountains in Oregon, which I didn't know this, is like, that's essentially all fungus. So
Yes, I've heard about
yeah,
this. She talked about that one. Yeah. Is it the golden oyster or something, like I think she said? It's like massive. It's one of the biggest in the world there. Yeah.
The oyster mushroom or the golden oyster?
Golden oyster,
Okay.
I think it was. I can't remember.
So oyster
Yeah.
mushrooms are carnivorous?
Yes. Yes.
Is
So
that the same one?
I believe so. I think yeah. So if this is the one, if this is, I may be conflating things, but I'm pretty certain she told us about this. So what happened with this is that it's non-native to that part of the world. But what she talked about was that there are people growing mushroom strains, and in certain parts of the US, mushrooms have escaped.
Yeah.
So the mushroom have escaped from the factories into the ground, and just which is bad because they can then run out, more native things that are connect better to the nature that exists there.
So I read this and I was like, oh really? So they escape. They can go, into the earth, but they can apparently mushrooms can create their own wind. So
fascinating.
Typically like they wait for wind to come and then the spores will fly off. But they don't have to wait for a breeze to blow by. They release water vapor that creates a little localized airstream, and the cooling of the vapor then moves the cells around the area, a la wind, which I didn't know.
I did not know that. That's fascinating. But and one of the things it's been really exciting for me learning it. I mean, I've dabbled in it a little bit before, but again, this was such a cool experience. It really made me want to learn so much more about them. So I think, over the next few while, I swore to myself I wouldn't buy any more books until I read all the books. But I'm going to buy a book of mushrooms this week. As a treat for doing my taxes,
That's right.
Okay? Wow.
Things change as you get older, huh?
Right, I know. What did you guys treat, Andy, for doing your taxes? Oh, a book of mushrooms. Like those kind of mushrooms? No, just mushrooms generally. The science of mushrooms.
Basket.
Oh, cool, Andy. You rock. So yeah. I don't know where I was going with that. But that's I do think it's such a kind of fascinating subject. Sorry, one of the things for what's throwing me off here, I want to get back to it before we move on completely. No, you didn't. It was I just found out information I was looking for earlier. The thing that I was talking about, that kind of mound, so is a hukal culture, which is literally a mound bed or mound culture, a horticultural technique where a mound constructed from decaying wood debris and other compostable biomass plant materials is later planted as a raised bed. So just as a way to clear that material, very interesting. And we started making one of those as part of one of the projects that we did that day as well, which was very cool.
I love hands-on projects like that.
Yeah. So much fun. So because basically the organization that ran the thing had their whole thing is about sustainable farming, and the center that we did it in, that we'd had the event in, was made out of straw bales with plaster over the top of them. Yeah. So cool.
So can you tell, because I forgot it already, what was the name of the class? Something about waterways?
So it was Myco-Remediation Workshop. Rejuvenate and decontaminate soil and water with fungi.
Huh. Because my husband does remediation. I wonder if he's ever thought about using mushrooms. And maybe, yeah.
This is the thing, and I think there's because one of the guys, the guy that I went down with, he was interested in it because he is starting to garden, and there's a lot of thought in that regard about how introducing certain types of mushroom to a garden can really kind of help the garden thrive, as long as you're kind of doing it thoughtfully, so I absolutely and I think it was even Fantastic Fungi, and she was talking about it as well, that there are certain fungi that they're doing tests on that can eat microplastics, that can eat polystyrene and things like that can clean up oil spills.
I've heard of that. I thought it was bacteria, but I think you're right. I think it might be fungi.
Yeah.
Or maybe the bacteria can do it as well. But when
I think there's some bacteria. I think I remember reading some bacteria with that as
or
well.
like anything that will eat microplastics.
Right? It's what we need so badly. And there was I remember one of the slides, and she was like, if it like some certain fungi encounters something that it's not sure of, it'll like keep its distance, but will like send out a wee tendril, taste the thing, come back, and then consult like its vast library of knowledge from like thousands of years of memories to like go, okay, how do we deal with this?
So it's like Avatar.
It is kind of like
Like
Avatar.
Home
That's a
Tree
very
with like
Yeah,
keeps
it
all the
is.
memories.
Yeah, it is.
But okay,
Like,
so like,
uh-huh.
and this is in the movie Fantastic Fungi, but I was not aware of the fact that fungi are like the telephone for the forest. So like the trees communicate, and everyone's like, trees communicate. And it's like, okay. But then they started really looking, and they thought it was the root systems that were intertwining, and then they realized, no, it's actually the fungi that's connecting all of these different plants and trees. And so without that symbiote, like, obviously the mushrooms are able to use the trees and the plants as a host, but they, and, deliver nutrients and all that, but they also allow the trees to, tell the other one, I'm being cut down now. Run!
Yeah, no.
Run, right?
Yeah.
And how interesting is that?
Yeah, excuse me, I don't think I was aware of that. Actually, that is very interesting. I mean, I think probably for those of you listening at home can tell that like I'm still in my infancy in terms of learning about this stuff. Like I still have a ways to go, but in the little engagement that I've had with it, I have found it so exciting and so kind of interesting, and the very kind of like essence of what mushrooms and mycology is all about like connection, which is absolutely a topic that I'm passionate about, so it's kind of exciting to see that out in the natural world as well, and then like it's got me thinking, how can I get more involved with it?
And I love that. I remember taking an urban farming class in college. I think I've talked to you about it before, and that's how I learned about farming, within urban environments, and how you can, what compost can do and what compost tea is. And I made jam, it's like, it was interesting. But also, just being able to like do some hands-on work like that. It's not, none of us are really like, how many farmers do you know?
That's true.
And we don't get the opportunity unless we're gardeners and really interested in that type of thing. It's not that the opportunity isn't there. It's just not as readily available.
It's not.
We go to the store and everything's prepackaged and pre-made.
Exactly.
And it's easier and it takes less time.
And it's like, how do you like go and have a conversation with a farmer, or do you know what I mean? Like, it's just hard to like. I think like again, one of the things that was so exciting about this room full of people, there were farmers there. There were like home gardeners. There was a guy who owns a soil company and like has been like making he's been perfecting his own compost for like 10, 20 years.
It's a thing.
And, like,
there's like so many different ways to do it, and like what compost tea is, it's basically like all the stuff that like settles to the bottom eventually just becomes like a wet broth, and you take that wet broth, you mix it with some water, and it's like basically it's kind of like and then you pour it on the plants, and that inoculates them from all of these bad nasty diseases that they can have. And we actually did an experiment where we put, for same plants, broccoli, no compost tea on this half, compost tea on this half, and the ones that got the compost tea grew faster, produced more. It was fascinating. Yeah, and so they allowed us to make those mistakes too, which was nice.
I mean, that's how you learn. Like, but then that's one of the, they talked about that as well, that or something like that, where they would take this kind of healthy piece of compost and kind of place it in another site, and how that can have valuable impact on the area. It's like he had a microscope with him. We were like looking at the compost in detail. He was making us smell the compost.
Yeah, and you're like,
there was like,
get in there.
Yeah, it was like, this is nice actually. The good, like, because like you expect compost to stink, and he's like, yeah, and he goes, but this is like, I've worked in this for years. It's like stable. It's it's kind of got a complete balance of everything that compost should have. Through the microscope, we could actually see all the kind of bacteria doing its work. We could see little strands of mycelia and all sorts of things. It was just fascinating. His wife was there with him as well, and somebody was like, so you could almost eat it, and they were like, ha ha ha, and then his wife's like, he does. He's like, I probably shouldn't, but I had to taste it I had it once or twice. He's like, I love it. Well, and I'm like, well, that's so cool.
The health benefits. So I used to work for a naturopathic association, and so we would have people come in and talk about different ways to be healthy, and in a, I would say, more conventional way, because this is like old medicine. So I was like, all right, well, what are some of the health benefits from eating or taking like capsules of different types of mushrooms? Because there's so many different types of mushrooms. Some of them are poisonous, so do not eat everything. Like, get an ID book, Andy, because they're edible and non-edible. Fine. Right? Some of them can kill you. You don't want that. But first of all, they can survive in outer space.
Cool.
So, space shroom studies, aka mushrooms brought into outer space by humans, have shown to survive with incredibly high doses of radiation. So then they think of Chernobyl and like that whole area coming back to life. So they're a great source of antioxidants. I've been prescribed, when I was getting treatment down in Mexico, I was taking 4 different types of mushrooms for different with different healing properties that I don't remember off the top of my head, but they can decrease the risk of cancer. They can lower your sodium intake, so it like absorbs it. It promotes lower cholesterol, protects your brain health. It's a perfect source of vitamin D. It stimulates a healthier gut, and as like all these new studies are coming out that show how important your gut health actually is. Yeah. And it just supports, a healthy immune system. So you can go to a natural health food store or talk to a naturopathic doctor or a naturopath and, do a little research yourself. But it's crazy how wonderful it is that you can eat or take a capsule of a plant that isn't a pharmaceutical drug, and it can, help your body.
Absolutely. And and one of the things that I have wanted to dig into, but I didn't get a chance to ask about, I just didn't feel like it was that sort of session, was that, there has been some research done on certain mushrooms helping with degenerative brain conditions and things like that. And so the applications are limitless, especially for something that, an area of science that hasn't really had a concerted effort to understand it for a long time, and it's only fairly recently that it's starting to become a serious,
we were talking about meditation
science
last week, and this idea that transcendental meditation has had millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars put into the research behind that. This is an area where I think we could, since we're the ones telling everyone where the money goes, right? But this is an area that I think would be very beneficial.
Absolutely. And it's I think, easy to diminish it, but it's all I think honestly diminished by people who, dum-dums, I guess. people who just like, oh, just mushrooms, you know. But like, I think it's very much in a world that, like, as much as I've scratched the surface of it, I'm excited to like delve more into it, you know, in a big way.
Okay, so I have a money making idea for you.
Go. Yeah,
Caterpillar fungus. It's a parasitic fungus that kills. Wait. No. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's Yartsa gunbo caterpillar fungus. Parasitic fungus kills its host, and uses it. Maybe you've seen this in like a nature show, where it like kills the host, and then it's gross, and then like the mushroom grows out of the dead carcass, for the caterpillar's head. So this has been used for like centuries with healers, to treat illnesses, boost energy, endurance. Apparently eating them is considered a huge status symbol. So for an ounce US, you get $2,000.
Wow.
Get your fucking basket.
Wow.
Get the fuck out there. Okay. Get your bonnet. Go find some of these caterpillar fungi.
Okay, that'd be good business to get into.
Or grow them yourself. I don't know. Get some caterpillars and say you're sorry to them.
Yeah. Bros. You know, it's for the greater good. And get me rich. So like, I know, because like that's, I think, largely the inspiration for the things in The Last of Us.
Yes.
I think there's another more insidious version of that takes control of ants and certain spiders and things like that. And I remember, I think it was sometime last year, seeing a video of a guy finding a tarantula had been infected by one, which is very unusual because they normally don't hit things quite as large as a tarantula. And it was just fascinating. This thing, it had just walked into a certain place where it could, you know, start breeding from there, and just kind of grew out of this tarantula, and it's crazy.
So I found this. So it's the cordyceps mushroom. It can infect ants and turn them into zombies. So, and it says, The Last of Us, the shrooms infect the ants with their spores, causing them to become brainwashed and disoriented. The fungus then compels the ant to leave their nest and go to a nearby stem, the perfect place to grow a fungus, and then the fruiting body bursts through the ant's head.
Yeah. Intense.
I love it.
So intense.
But someone was like, I'm learning about mushrooms. Wow, this would be very interesting if this was like a human condition, right? And I'm going to make a video game and then like an award-winning series about the cordyceps mushroom.
True. Yeah. It is. It's kind of wild. Like, I remember...
with Pedro Pascal.
With Pedro Pascal. The hottest ticket in Hollywood. Right? I remember seeing a few years ago, I saw a talk about mushrooms, and this was about magic mushrooms largely, and a guy who's been done experiments on mental health with them and things like that, but he talked about somebody who tried to inject mushrooms before, and it was
not a good,
very bad indeed, because they started growing. Mushroom strains started growing within his bloodstream, and it was a fucking shit show to deal with, essentially. But yeah, so, you know, they definitely can't find a footing anywhere, which is kind of scary, but it's unlikely. I think that they will actually make a leap like that.
Like into your bloodstream. You need a syringe for that.
Yeah, you need a syringe, and you need to be
cordyceps. Got to be like
yeah. Let's try this cordyceps. See what happens for a laugh. Yeah. So who knows? We're certainly not short of dum-dums on this planet, so anything's possible.
Do you know that they can make you immortal?
Okay, keep talking.
So Reshi is a blend that I took. So maybe that's why I'm just still kicking.
Sure.
Obviously, this is an over-exaggeration. But the Reshi mushrooms are known as the mushroom of immortality, and it's Reishi, Reshi. So I'm sure I'm saying it wrong.
Okay.
But it's been revered in China for like thousands of years, and believed like boosts energy, immunity, promotes relaxation, and helps detoxify the body. So
That's
I
wow.
know.
I had not.
I know.
I don't even think I know that strain. Mm-hmm.
And there's another kind that glows in the dark. No, there's 80 different strains. Okay, so I'm going all the way back. I should have started with this. So, would you say mushrooms are a plant or an animal?
So I know this. Where they're closer. They're closer to us than they are to plants.
Yeah,
So they're more of an animal, right?
They're neither.
They're
They're
neither.
their own
Okay,
thing.
awesome.
So they belong to their like, you know how you have. Look at my giant brain, Andy. You've got kingdom,
Sure.
phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. They're in their own
Yeah.
kingdom. And you're
Wow.
not wrong. They're closely related, more related to humans than they are to plants. Scientists believe that ourselves and mushrooms share an ancestor.
Wow. How interesting.
What do you think that looked like?
That's a good question. Folks at home, write in with your drawings.
Please do.
What do you think that looked
Please
like?
do. So I thought that was fascinating.
That is great. I had no idea about that. I remember like seeing a thing, God, I don't even know what this was, talking about, you know, the origins of life on this planet and how like some of the first things that formed were these kind of tubes at the bottom of the ocean, and they kind of like shot air out and sucked it back in, and how that action of like taking air in and out of the body has informed
The lung.
so much of life on this planet, the lungs and all, everything, and how like, you know, life, you know, exists essentially.
Not lungs, but
which is so fascinating. But just like our process of like living by like pulling
something
the
in,
stuff that we need into of us and then
off-gassing,
ejecting it back out.
Whatever.
Yeah. So like we're all like, you know, descended from these lava tubes or whatever in a odd sort of way, you know. I think it was just a theory, but it's such a compelling one, you know.
No, we're aliens, Andy.
Yeah, we're seated here. If James Cameron's Prometheus has taught me anything, it's that the engineers planted us on this planet many years ago.
Exactly.
Isn't that what that film said? Something like that. Can't remember.
Much like I know the scientific whatever, I can also name the seven dwarfs. Did you know this?
Okay, hit me up.
Sleepy, happy, dopey, bashful. Wait, sleepy, happy, dopey, grumpy, bashful, sneezy, doc.
Nice.
You're welcome.
Good work. Okay, you'll be all set for the live action.
I think that. Oh, I know. I can't even think about that. That was a clusterfuck. But I think that it's the Reshi that helps me remember these things.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, an advertising for Reshi everywhere. Everyone.
Right. But yeah, no, you were saying like with like brain diseases. So there's like, cognitive issues. It says the effects of eating mushrooms on mild cognitive impairment, which can cause like memory, language difficulties, and often is a precursor for Alzheimer's. Just eat mushrooms.
Yep.
Promote that brain. You know what what my least favorite food on the planet is?
Mushrooms?
Fucking mushrooms. I hate them.
Fucking love them.
Anyone is like a portobello burger, and I'm like, if I wanted to eat a fucking slug, I would.
Yeah, I do understand
it's
it.
A
I think it is a
texture
textural
thing.
thing.
Like I can eat them raw, fine, but they taste cooked.
I love them. Love them. Love them.
With all, yeah. You're just wrong.
Yeah, I know, that's fair. I totally understand the textural issues with mushrooms completely, like, but I do love them. Yeah, like, and I think I kind of probably need to explore more options with them as well. I mean, it's just, you know, it's made me start thinking a bit about other kind of strains of mushrooms I haven't eaten. You know, of the edible ones, obviously. I'm not talking about magic mushrooms on this occasion. So yeah, yeah. So, you know, catch me probably in like 6 months from now wearing, you know, all my kind of pro mushroom fan gear.
We'll be wearing a beekeeping
big
suit.
Mushroom
And
hat,
we'll be like, no, Andy, this is the wrong outfit.
Wearing my mushroom. Yeah, you're right. It is? I spent a fortune in this. What have I done, you fucking idiot, Andrew?
So you get for doing your taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Lesson learned, everybody. Don't do your taxes. Fuck the government. I wanted to like talk about one more thing, just in terms of the event. So the other kind of piece of practical work that she did with us was she showed us how to correctly kind of prepare substrate, or one of the methods for preparing substrate, which was we took a load of...
So substrate, explain to folks what that is.
So substrate is the kind of what's the word I'm looking for here?
It's not dirt.
It's essentially, no, it's not. It's not. So it can be a variety of different things, but the one that so it's basically something that the mycelia can feed upon to thrive and grow, essentially. So like certain kind of types of wood. So essentially, we took pine and we covered it in non-chlorinated water, and you have to leave that for like several weeks, and then dump out the water, and you have this substrate that's ready to go, and you can just put mushrooms on it, and they should grow without too many problems. But the one that was like of specific interest to me was coffee grounds she was talking about, and because like I generate, this house certainly generates a ton of coffee grounds, so it's something I'm going to look into in terms of like using my own sort of, in terms of generating my own substrate. So it's just finding a way to cleanse that properly. I can't remember the exact words she used, like but you know, basically a way to like get rid of all the sort of other bacteria that may be competing within it, and then you can just kind of introduce the mushrooms and they can kind of thrive. Like she had interesting ideas about like applying like honey or wax onto them, because like that sort of sweet element can really kind of help them kind of kick off, because like they essentially just need to feed. So sometimes you give them something to feed upon. Like,
here's your
right,
Reese's peanut butter cup.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, no way. Those are my Reese's. But yeah, fascinating subject. Fascinating.
Yeah, and you can grow your own at home. They sell kits now, which like I didn't grow up with those. But yeah, it's easy to get your own substrate from the mail, get the spores from the mail, and grow your own. So
yeah,
your own. What was our $1 million ones? The caterpillar fungus. Yeah.
Caterpillar fungus. Okay, those are the ones we're working on. So we just need some caterpillars and
some volunteer caterpillars
substrate
that are like ready to be done.
Yeah, guys. Yeah. Guys, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Just sign this piece of paper.
Right.
You're all good. I love it. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Mushrooms?
You know the obvious one, which would be psilocybin.
Yes, that's true. We haven't touched on that at all, which I think people will be surprised about.
I know, right? Haha, we waited until the last 5 minutes to talk about the thing you really wanted to know about. So I guess like it's not illegal to mail spores.
Yes. And
wink, wink.
Wink, wink. And I will also say that like I'm sure I've talked about this before a little bit as well. You know, my journey with, through mental health has made me fairly disillusioned with the system that we have. I think that there's a lot of compelling evidence of the value of magic mushrooms for that very thing. And I wouldn't say that is entirely where my interest begins and ends. Like I absolutely have an interest in the recreational side of them too, but I really think that there's a lot of value there and unexplored. And I think we talked about it in recent weeks where it was like, it's such a shame that this stuff is so maligned. Like it's a shame to me that all illegal drugs are lumped in as the same thing a lot of the time, because like they are so vastly different. And I think that there are absolutely benefits to things like ayahuasca, to things like magic mushrooms, to things like even like ketamine and stuff like that in terms of like as therapies for people. There absolutely is. And it's such a shame that there's so many barriers to get through, for those to be like taken seriously.
When I was in Mexico, I was prescribed. You are allowed to be prescribed psilocybin in microdose quantities, and they've legalized psilocybin for medical use in California. It's going to take a few years to roll it out, but it is.
I think they did it in Australia as well recently, as far as I remember. Yeah, I think
so. So it's becoming more not available, but the stigma around them is especially with we in our state we have a lot of military retired military, and they're finding the benefits for PTSD, CPTSD, trauma therapy, that it's very beneficial. So I just think having different types of natural therapies for people under a doctor's care is a great idea, because everybody's different. Everybody responds to things differently, and some things work for some people and not others, and the more options you have, the better. So
completely agree. Love it. Mushrooms, everybody, they rock. I'll maybe do another episode in the future whenever I feel like I've learned a bit more about them. In looking into them a bit more, there was there's something I need to find out a little bit more about. Is one of the books that was recommended to me was a book called Radical Mycology, and it's enormous. But what was really interesting is that the guy who wrote it knew nothing about mushrooms going into it, learned a shit ton, and then created this thing. And apparently that's what he does professionally, is he just
decides to learn something.
And then learns everything about it and writes books about it. And I'm like, wow, what a fascinating dude. And like that book looks cool as hell, but it's massive, which has put me off a little bit. But, maybe someday. But yeah, the one that has been recommended to me that I'm going to pick up next is something called Entangled Life, which is like 400 pages, so seems a hell of a lot more manageable.
What a great title.
Yeah, and is relatively new as well, so I think it's like pretty cutting edge in terms of what's going on with mushrooms, so excited for it.
Cutting edge mushroom information.
Yes. Yeah. Right? That's what we want. As you know, we are on the cutting edge here at Babygirl.
Hell yes. I love it. I love that you did that, and like, I think when you're like, I did this cool thing, and I was like, God, I miss doing interesting, not that, I don't do interesting things. I absolutely do, but just the idea of like going and taking a class and being able to do something hands-on, about something you know absolutely nothing about, being outside, and like, I'm all for that. So I'm impressed that you did it, and I'm glad you brought it here to Bendy.
Yes. Yes. It was invigorating, and I loved it.
Very good.
But yeah, so shall we move on to our final wee section, which is what's been bringing you joy this week?
All right.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, no, mine's. I'm just like, I just want comfort right now. So like mashed potatoes, fried rice, and then I have these really giant polar bear slippers. that I've been wearing around the house, and those are the things that are bringing me joy.
I like it. Okay, perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for.
I showed Andy my polar bear slippers.
She did. They're great.
Huge.
I loved them, and I'm envious.
I know, right? Next time you come, we'll go to SeaWorld.
Oh, is that where you got them? Nice. Because I was like, God, because you'd asked me about, SeaWorld. I was like, I don't know if I want to go to SeaWorld. I was like, and then I was like, what, SeaWorld has roller coasters? Okay. I kind of want to go to it now.
Yeah.
Like good ones as well. I'm like, okay, now I'm interested. And I know there's, but like I'm definitely curious about that.
You can go on the roller coasters and not look at the animals.
Yes, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. Yeah. Okay, so what's been bringing me joy this week is Skeleton Crew, the Star Wars.
Really? Is it good?
It is.
This is the
and
one
I'm
with
really surprised.
Jude Law?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, somebody described it to me as like Star Wars does Goonies, and it's a perfect
Ooh.
description of it. It's
Do you have to
really
watch
is,
all the
'cause
other things to like get in? Okay,
no,
good.
no. It is very much self-contained. Another reason why I'm really enjoying it. It feels like it's creating its own sort of like mythos. It does like lean into the kind of more traditional Star Warsy aspects a little bit, but not much. It feels very self-contained. A new kind of interesting piece of lore about the Star Wars universe. So like it's great so far. Like I think it's nearly finished now. But I remember seeing trailers for this and I was like, I have fuck all interest in this just because I know what the Star Wars shows have been like over the past few years, and like most of them have not worked for me. So like I was not interested at all, but I'm really loving it, and it's just a really nice show. So I definitely recommend it. As I say, honestly, Star Wars Does Goonies I think is as good a description as you're going to get of it, and it definitely fits that bill for me.
Like the Goonies for me is like, I don't know. Anytime we're watching something with Josh Brolin, I'm like, you guys, like, I know he's like in a Marvel movie, but you know who that is, right? He's a Goonie, and they're like, he's a Goonie. I'm like, yeah. Like anytime we see a Goonie in anything else, I'm like, that's a Goonie, and like, just it's a real piece of my childhood. So that
it's such a touchstone.
Yeah,
like,
it is. That's exactly what the word I was trying to figure out in my brain. But
I think it was. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty certain it was on the Lone End podcast. Andy Samberg, I think, or one of the NSNL writers had like a Goonies poster on their wall, and like Josh Brolin was coming in as a guest host, and I was like, oh,
there I am.
There I am. I was like, that rocks. That rocks.
Goonies never say die.
Love it. Great, awesome. Beth, could you let everybody know where they can find us?
Yes, you can find us at bendypodcast.com, and maybe not on TikTok, depending on if that goes away. Ha! So,
who knows?
Things are always changing, folks. Trying to change with the times, but sometimes it takes a while. So.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, all right, folks. In that case, as always, we'd like to remind you to stay.
What the fuck, Andy?
Oh, I had a burp, Andy. Oh, worst
You
burp
just
time
stopped,
ever.
and I was like, what?
I know. I was so whatever. All right, bye. We love you.